that you could pick up a security camera that records in 2K resolution, has push notifications, has pan tilt zoom and two-way audio, plus a hell of a load more features, and it costs less than 30 quid. You'd think I'd be lying. Now this is it. As far as I can tell, it goes by a few different names, the most common being the Dome Light 2. It's for with you guys because not only is it budget, Jed here at the studio uses this to secure his own home and has nothing but great things to say about it. So let's start with what you actually get in the box. Now obviously you get the camera itself, you get a 2-meter power cable. This thing is powered by USB, which is really nice to see, so no high voltage stuff going on here. The camera itself has a plastic shell, it has mounting brackets on the bottom, and obviously the top portion of the camera rotates because it's a pan tilt zoom camera. This thing can look 360 degrees the way round, so if it was in the middle of a room you could see everything. And funnily enough, the actual SD card that you can put in here to store the footage is actually hidden under the tilt axis. Pretty neat. Now I'm aware people are going to think with a video like this, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And don't get me wrong, I'm completely with you on that, and we'll get to the visual quality of this camera momentarily. But first, the setup process. I'm happy to report it's a breeze. Basically download the app, create an account with blurams, tell the application your Wi-Fi name and password, and do note it only supports 2.4 gigahertz here, not 5. And then once you've done that, it creates a QR code with all of that information on it. You then point that QR code at the camera reads it, connects to the Wi-Fi, and then you're pretty much good to go. Setting this camera up took no more than 40 seconds. My grandma could do it. Now with that out of the way, I'm not going to hold you much longer, let's jump straight into the quality. What can you actually see from this little sensor? Now as you can see, the quality is really good for a camera that, let me remind you, costs £30. Most people will be viewing this on their smartphone, as that's where the app lives. You're going to be viewing what the camera sees on the smartphone and playing it back on the smaller screens. It's going to look even sharper. Really impressed with the quality here. I didn't think it was going to be that good. Pleasantly surprised. I also wanted to go ahead and show you some nighttime footage, so this is what this looks like. The camera was in my garage, and as you can see absolutely everything inside of this room. There are no lights on in here whatsoever, so viewing things at night isn't going to be an issue for you. Now one of the questions I get the most regarding CCTV is, Alex, can I have a camera to monitor something, to live monitor it? For example, looking at pets to make sure they're doing the right things, or monitoring, I don't know, like elderly relatives or something like that to make sure they're okay. Now this is where I think this camera would really shine, because you could place it in the center of a room, for example, let's say the kitchen. Let's say you place it in your grandma's kitchen. You can then 360 all the way around this little bad boy to see where she is, to make sure she's okay, to make sure she hasn't slipped over. And then on top of that, you've also got two-way audio comms in here.
So this is the audio that you can hear coming out of the camera, and it is actually quite loud. You can definitely hear what's going on.
Something else that's really cool with this device as well, also should I note included free, is person detection. So obviously it can tell you if it thinks it can see an actual person moving around in the frame. It can also, obviously it's listening with its microphone, tell you if your kids are crying. You could use this as a baby monitor. Really cool for that. Again, 30 quid. Now, they say, coming soon. Don't buy a product on promises for the future. However, they say coming soon is package, car, and what was the other one?
Pet.
And pet detection. So yeah, there you go. It'll tell you if it sees your pets or your packages or a car, which is awesome. The app so far as I can tell, is really solid. As soon as you open it up, it's quick to display what I would assume to be all of the cameras. We only have one of them here, so you can see that displayed at the top. Now once you click on each camera view, it will then load the live feed of that camera, and you can also use the scroll wheel on the screen to go ahead and view the camera's history. And also you've got the settings pane here for each camera to go in and change the name and, well, quality and different things like that. They use the timeline method to basically scroll back to find the times that you want, and obviously it has motion and person detection highlighted with different colors. So those are those 3 different strips that you can see running down the page, and as you scroll back through time, these will obviously highlight when the camera thinks it has seen a person or it just thinks it's some sort of movement, for example. You also have some separate controls to do things like sound and alarm. If that's something you would like, you can activate the 2-way audio, and then you also have a virtual joystick to move on this camera's model. Specifically, it's pan, tilt, zoom, which is really quite cool. It also has a feature on here which you can turn on in the settings, and that is that it will follow any movement in the room should it see it. So if someone was to walk through the door and then they made it to the other side of the room, if the camera sees them walk through the door, it should try, with its motors and pan, tilt, zoom, track them as they move across the room. Really cool if you've got a really large room that one camera just wouldn't cover. As is the case with most of these cheap cameras, they have a paid storage option, which is obviously worth a look at because this camera is cheap as chips anyway. Now, I wanted to compare it to something a little more familiar. This is the system from Ring by Amazon. It's currently installed at my nana's house, and she's paying for the monthly subscription here. Feature-wise, it just isn't as feature-rich. As you can see here, it's only recording on motion events, not round the clock like blurams, and it's not telling you what the motion is, it's just saying there is motion. So there's no facial detection here, and as you can see, the quality isn't even really comparable. The paid services are super inexpensive, and they offer 7, 15 and 30-day continuous recording. And the best thing about the cloud recording is if someone was to take this camera, because I mean, I'd hazard a guess that this camera is going to be sat on a tabletop. This is kind of how this has been designed. It's not going to be high up out the way. If someone was to take this camera and you had the cloud recording, well, if it was stored on the SD card, everything would be gone with the camera, no footage of anybody. But with the cloud recording, everything is in the cloud, and it is 24/7 recording, not just on motion, round the clock. Peace of mind. And on top of that, because I know people don't like getting so many notifications every time their camera sees something, you can tell the camera that if it detects motion that it thinks is this specific person, like the postman for example, just don't even bother notifying me. Let's say you've got a spouse or something that comes home every day at 3 o'clock. You can say, don't notify me when this person comes home because I just don't need to know. All I need to know is if it's a robber or something that I don't want happening inside of my house or office, for example. So yeah, I think we have really found a little bit of a gem here. There's no shortcomings, there's nothing to really complain about. The thing works, and it works well. Not once have I logged onto this camera and found that I haven't been able to view its live feed, or play back any of its footage that's stored in the cloud, or